Welcome to Stop the Ride, a sober curious podcast for anyone whose relationship with drugs or alcohol has ever felt a little bit like a roller coaster. I'm your host, Drew Valentino. Sobriety can mean a number of things, so each week I sit down with a new guest to talk about why they decided to distance themselves from drugs and alcohol. So whether you are in recovery or just looking to make some positive adjustments to your life, you are right where you need to be. And on this very special two-part episode premiere, I talk with one of my closest friends, Tricia, to share my backstory with substance abuse. In part one, we talk about the first time I got sober after getting addicted to heroin as a teenager. Let's get into it. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the podcast. My name is Drew Valentino, and today I'm going to be sharing my sober journey. And with me today, I have a very special guest, one of my closest friends of 17 years, my best friend growing up, Tricia.
Hi, thanks for having me today.
Thank you for being here. I'm really happy to have you be part of this with me. Tricia and I, we really met in the restaurant industry, which Brian and I were just talking about is a very dangerous place for addicts and like people with alcohol and drugs and stuff. But one of the reasons why I want to have Tricia here with me today is because I met her shortly after I overcame addiction the first time.
Oh.
Yeah, which
it was shortly after?
It was shortly after, and that's what was kind of crazy is that we met. I went through a bunch of stuff that I'm going to talk about today that was really like crazy. We met like maybe like 9 months after that.
I had no idea it was that close.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Because it just didn't seem.
No, I remember when you told me the story, I thought of it as years and years. So how long from before I met you did you start using?
Well, it depends on what drug. So that's the thing is that what I was first introduced to alcohol when I was 12. I was partying with my sister, and she was older than me, and had a bunch of friends over, I guess high school, whatever. And I went to hang out with her, and I got wasted. So that's right off the bat. My first time ever experiencing mind-altering substances. I got drunk. I was 12. So I had peppermint schnapps, which is disgusting. Yeah, and like I just kept taking shots of it because I didn't know, and I blacked out. I blacked out my first time, and I remember I threw up. It was horrible. And then it was like I remember being hungover and wanted to brush my teeth, but the peppermint was like, I was like scarred for life with peppermint because of that.
Yeah.
So that was like some early on, there's definitely a linkage, I think, like a correlation between early exposure to drugs and alcohol and addiction. And that's like my story for sure. In high school, I tried weed for the first time, but actually I didn't really go through a weed phase. I went straight for the hard stuff. Like I was in high school and somebody gave me a bump of Coke.
Wow.
I was 15, and I remember buying.
Were you actually in school?
No, actually we went to McDonald's. We snuck out during our period off.
During school?
Yeah, so we did Coke.
Wow.
Coke and McDonald's, And I remember being like, I love this, and trying to buy it on my own. And then I was like literally like a sophomore in high school, 15 years old, like buying grams of Coke. I mean, I didn't have a lot of money. I didn't have the best connect. So it's not like I would constantly had Coke, but I did own my own Coke, which was like crazy to think back. And then I tried ecstasy for the first time at 16. And yeah, I this whole time I had this idea in my head. I remember like looking up drugs online, like what they did, and was so fascinated by all these different drugs.
You still did them after you looked up?
That's why I looked them up. I was like, this is exciting. Like I want to know their effects.
Yeah.
And I had it in my mind. And I remember saying this in high school, that I will try everything except for heroin because my sister, one of my sisters, was born addicted to heroin. And it's just really sad. It was something I knew that she was hospitalized the first 6 months of her life right after she was born. Wow. And that I love my sister. So that stuck with me. And I remember thinking like, no matter what, I'm not going to do heroin. And I want to say at 17 years old, I was with a bunch of my friends that I partied with, and we were going to get ecstasy. And I just remember that we had a hookup that was kind of shady, and we were waiting and waiting for him to text us back. It was like 4 of us in a room, addicts. Like, I didn't know at the time, but I was an addict, and like just waiting for this call. And and then my friend says to me, you know, I have diesel. And I was like, what is that? And he pulls out a little envelope bag that had powder in it. And he said, diesel is heroin mixed with morphine. I never heard of that again. So diesel. So I wonder, the morphine thing I never saw that again. So I don't know if he just didn't know what he was talking about or if it really was. I have no idea. It was just fucking heroin. Yeah. So I remember saying, no, I will not do heroin. I won't do that because of my sister. I mean, I didn't get that whole speech, but that I wanted to stick to it. But, and this was one of like the earlier, you know, it's such a distinctive pattern with addiction. And this is like full blown addiction in my face, is that we wanted to get high. We were determined to get high. The guy called, our one friend went to go get it, was gone for a long time, calls us a half hour later and says, I don't know if the guy bailed or stole our money, or I don't know, but the guy didn't have it. And now we weren't going to get it. And after we were just waiting for like an hour and a half. And the addict in me was like, we were devastated. You know, when an addict thinks they're going to get high and then can't, that's when they go nuts. And you
get desperate.
Right. And my friend said, well, we have the diesel. And I guess I was just so broken at that point that meaning that I wanted it to get high so bad that I said, okay, let's do it. And part of me like was in denial of how serious it was. Like part of me I didn't even know what it would feel like. I didn't know what to expect. So it was very just like, okay, sure, let's sniff it and see what happens. And I remember that it's unforgettable. It's like it knocked me on my ass. Meaning like I was blown away by how good it felt. And I was not expecting that. And I
Can you describe it?
Yeah. Well, it's just like it's a very warm and cozy feeling.
Which way did you take it the first time?
I sniffed it. That's a good question. Yeah. Cause a lot of people are like, oh, you were on heroin. And they just, how did you get into it? People assume that you shot, that I shot heroin. And I did, but most people, it's a powder. So most people can get introduced to it, smoking it, sniffing it, whatever. And that's what made it less scary. If he was like, hey, you want to try some heroin? Like that wouldn't have went down that way. I remember I went back to my place, my mom's house, and I went to bed so warm and cozy and thinking like, this is it. Like, I want more of this.
How long did it last? Do you remember?
That's what's crazy is that I feel like it lasted a few hours. And it's just funny because heroin is strange. It's sold in bags. So the quantity is the number of bags. So it's not like you buy a gram it's not like you buy a gram. It's just like, I want 10 bags. And it's these little wax envelopes. And it's just funny because for the first time doing it, I just had one bag, maybe not even the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I was high for hours. And then fast forward, you shoot 2 bags, 3 bags at once, and it only lasts a half hour. You know what I mean? And that's why it's like the cheapest, most expensive drug ever, because those bags are like $7, $10. Wow. When you're doing 15 of them a day, like that adds up. You know, right? Exactly. It's terrible. And so for the next few years, basically from 17 to 20. That's all I wanted. That's all I thought about. That's all I cared about. I think that my family noticed a shift in I was just like quirky and out there and like, I don't know, like they probably thought it was like pothead vibes, you know, but that's all I cared about. Luckily, I did not have a source of income and I didn't have a steady connection. Thank God. Thank God. I had people that would try to like, I had connects that would take advantage of me that like stole my money before. And so when I say I've done heroin from 17 to 20, like on and off because I couldn't always get it.
Mm-hmm.
But I met this one girl, and it's funny because I don't remember her name, and I feel like it just has been enough time where I forgot her name. Like probably
Yeah.
2 years ago, if you asked me, I would probably remember.
Yeah.
And she's dead now. But everybody in my life from back there is dead pretty much.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
Wow.
she took me to go get it in Newark, and
This was closer to 20?
this was, yeah, maybe, I don't know, 18, 19.
Okay.
Yeah. And I remember, no, it must have been 18 because this was pretty soon after me trying it for the first time. She took me to go get it. We had to be quick because she had to go to work. We went to Newark. We picked it up. It's sketchy as fuck. Like, I think about how many times I went there and how dangerous that is. Like, there's been times where my car was swarmed by like homeless people asking me for money and like, yeah. I mean, and that's just scary because I was 18, you know?
Yeah, you were a
So,
child, essentially.
And when we got it, we were on the highway driving back, and she takes out all the supplies to shoot it. And I was like, whoa, like I just didn't even think about that. And I might have reacted, and she was like, you're sniffing it? Actually, it was more like, you're sniffing it, because she was so out there. She was like, you're sniffing it? I'm like, yeah. She's like, what a waste. That's such a waste. Why would you do that? That's horrible. And I am immediately like curious, like, I don't want to waste it. You know what I mean? Like, so she asked me, like, do you want to shoot it? And I said, I just don't know how.
Yeah.
But I don't.
Did you feel like what a big decision that is?
No.
No.
That's the worst part is the feeling I felt was excitement.
Wow.
I remember being excited, and we are on the highway. We didn't pull over. I give her my arm. I don't look. And she wraps up my arm and does it. I'm driving.
Oh my God, you're driving?
Yeah. And I just remember it was like that first time. Like, you know, they say you're chasing the high. Mm-hmm. It's like, and you'll never get that first high. The shooting it was the same as the first high. Mm-hmm. I mean, the first time shooting it was its own thing. Yeah. And I remember not watching. I didn't want to see. I didn't care. I'm not afraid of needles. So I was like, sure. And I just remember like it hitting immediately and just melting. And I'll never forget that, you know, and even a lot of times where I broke and caved throughout my life and I used, it was thinking of that specific moment, you know? And what's really sad about that is when I got back and I dropped her off at work, I had like 10 bags on. I bought like 10 bags. And that felt so good from her shooting it. And I had this idea that if I snorted it, it would be a waste. That even though I wanted to do it so badly to do more, I was going to wait until she got out of work. And I texted her and she not even texted me back. And I'm like, because she's at work. And I'm just like waiting for her. I did not want to waste it. I didn't want to. So as soon as she got out of work, like, 6 hours later, whatever, I picked her up and she showed me how to do it. I bought my own needles. I got everything I needed. And then I was shooting it, you know.
Can we back up a little bit?
Sure.
You're driving and this is happening. You were able to pay attention and drive?
Yeah. The driving was a nice distraction. But the thing is also, and this is something that I liked about heroin, is that unlike weed or alcohol, it didn't affect, I mean, I shouldn't say it didn't affect, but like it was easier to do that than to be stoned driving. Like it wasn't, it made me feel good, but it didn't change my
Focus.
brain and my focus. I mean, obviously it did if it makes you sleepy, and obviously you do a bunch of it, you're going to nod out. So that's dangerous. But I'm just saying, like, that was what I liked about it, is that, alcohol, you're not fully there, where I felt like with heroin, it was like I was fully there, but felt good. and it was like a body high that I loved, and so
So she gets you all of the supplies for it.
mhm.
Where do you get these things? Is there a store?
I don't even remember.
Online? Like, how
I,
do you
I
find it?
honestly don't even remember. I don't know if I got the syringes at a store or what, a dealer maybe,
Yeah.
but I had a different deal. And again, thank God I didn't have the best connect, so I wasn't able to get a steady flow of it. And I remember the times where I got sick because I was injecting it for a
Mhm.
few days and then not, and I got so sick, cold, like sweats,
Yeah.
shaking.
Your parents think you have the flu.
Yeah. That's when they started to get a little suspicious.
Mhm.
So, um,
Is there like a time you remember where they were really worried about you, or you were withdrawing and
I think that for the most part, because the truth is I was such a good boy, like in just as a teenager, like I was not, a troublemaker. So I think that they gave me the benefit of the doubt, as most parents would,
yeah.
and I don't think they noticed, but eventually my sister, my older sister, who's very like detective, big sister, like
Yeah.
she got a hold of my phone and went through the texts and saw, and I don't know if it was, I think it was specifically mentioned heroin,
Mm.
and she brought it to my family, and they actually brought me to visit my aunt in the hospital. It was a lie. It was
Uh,
it was give me drug tests,
mm.
and yeah. So
God, that must have been, you probably felt very betrayed.
I
But
felt very
and
betrayed.
that must have been really hard for your sister to do that.
I know. I
Really
know.
hard.
I
Like,
felt,
what a terrible place to be.
and it's one of those things where even now I look back and I just feel so bad that she had to do that,
Yeah.
and obviously I am not upset with, I'm glad she did that,
Yeah.
but she told my family, they brought me to the hospital telling me that we were visiting a family member. And then we get there and they tell me that like Aunt so-and-so is not here. You're getting a drug test.
Wow.
And
Did your heart just
it was like, oh shit. And the thing is, when we got to the hospital, at some point, no, I didn't get the drug test yet, but I was in the hospital bed. Yeah.
They can do this over 18?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Hey, wait a second.
Yeah.
I want my money back.
You probably just wanted to comply with
I'm not going to be like,
yeah.
no, I didn't do drugs,
Yeah,
and then just leave. Well, I was in the bed, and I don't know if they took, maybe they took the blood at that point, but we didn't get the results. But
Mm.
I was denying it.
Mhm.
And my dad, and again, it's
Mm.
one of these horrible moments I'll never forget. My dad was like, you're not doing any drugs." I said, "No." He said, "Let me see your arms,"
Mm.
and they're all marked up. They'll have, and he goes, "Okay, that's what I needed to know," and
Oh.
just walked away. And it was just like, well, now I look back and it's heartbreaking because
Yeah.
of how much I love my father. At the time, I was just scared. It was more just like, oh no, I got caught.
Yeah.
Like, but looking back, it's just such a sad thing to put my parents through,
Yeah.
Obviously as an adult, my thought on this is going to be a little
Yeah.
more matured now that I'm sober, X amount of years later.
So, do you get the results in the hospital or
Yeah, I don't remember if we got the results. We probably got them right then and there, but
okay.
that was the first time they sent me to rehab.
So you just left from there?
I
Wow.
had to go to
And
right to
obviously
the
you
rehab.
weren't ready.
I was not ready.
Yeah.
I was not ready. I did not want to stop doing drugs. I did not care. I didn't want to be there. Actually, that's not true. I like being in rehab because for me it was very social. I like to be in these like social settings. So that's the thing is I remember like making all these friends and having a great time and I was withdrawing from heroin, but they have but they have like methadone and stuff that
Yeah.
or whatever Suboxone that they put you on that eases the symptoms. And but that was my first exposure to treatment.
Mhm.
And I say this all the time. I wasn't ready for it, but I still heard it.
Mhm.
So when I was ready for it, I had the tools, which was really
Yeah.
important that I went there.
So you would say to a family that is going through something similar,
Mhm.
even if their son or daughter isn't ready, they should still push them into rehab?
It's a tricky it's a tricky question to answer. I mean, yes, right? You always want to be there, but sometimes sometimes trying to push somebody can make it worse. So it really depends. But yeah, I do think that when you're if you're a parent
Mhm.
and you find out your child is on hard drugs, you need to do whatever you can to give them the tools so that they can stop, whether it's now or later. I mean, for me, it was heroin, right?
Yeah.
If you find out your kid's on heroin, put them in a fucking rehab.
Mhm.
So if they smoke pot, that's the different story.
Yeah.
So it's I guess it kind of depends. Um,
Would you say your childhood and early adulthood, you had like happy family, like things were going good, and this was just because you were introduced to the wrong people? Or do you think there was some kind of internal struggle that led you there?
So, and I've talked about this directly with my family because I had a very supportive, loving family and a good childhood. Like there was nothing, there was nothing from my childhood that, a lot of addicts share that they were abused or something.
Hmm.
There was none of that.
Yeah.
I do think that a lot of it was indirectly because of my sexuality and just not being accepting of who I am.
Yeah.
Cause I
Like
was,
you didn't
for
accept
all of this,
yourself.
yeah, for all of this, I was in the closet. And
Wow. Yeah.
so, and I remember explaining this to my sister when I was in rehab or well, years later. Like, it's not like I think like I'm going to do drugs because I'm gay, what I mean? Like that, and I can't accept. No, I think what happened was that because I was in the closet and really had no idea what I was doing in my life, being in the closet's very scary, and so I felt like if most people's day to day are here,
Hmm.
I feel like my day to day was down here. I was pretty anxious and depressed. So then it's like, if you're here or here and heroin brings you here, there's such a bigger gap. Like I had nothing, I had nothing going on in my life to hold on to that was like super important, that made me feel like I belonged. So when I did something that made me feel really, really good, I had nothing else that made me feel really, really good.
Hmm.
So in comparison, that's what I think, and addiction just runs in my family too. So
You sharing this is just such a shock to me because when you came to Bonefish and we all met you,
right.
I would never in a million years think that you had nothing good, or you just came with so much sunshine and personality, and that's really
Yeah.
interesting.
Well, that's
Okay.
nice to hear because I do think that at that point, I woke up. Like
Yeah.
when you met me at the perfect time
Yeah.
because I was not like that prior to that.
So you went to rehab and you liked it, but then you came back and what happened?
I came back and then it was a game of let me try to pretend I'm not on drugs to
You
stay
knew
off
right
the radar.
away.
Yeah, I was like, I can't wait to do
Oh
heroin
my
again. Oh
God.
my God,
You were just fooling
I
everybody.
was just, I was trying. I was trying. And I was succeeding. I think that I don't, well, look, it's not like I was able to do heroin again in the next few months,
Okay.
but I couldn't wait, and, um, it's kind of a blur. I don't remember
You don't remember,
exactly
yeah.
what, like, I think I was just in this like garbage head mode. Garbage head, um, I've just heard that term a lot used in like and referring to somebody that like, what's your drug of choice? Just all of it. You just want to get high. Like that's where I was at. Where
Yeah.
like I just, whether it was pills, coke, whatever, I just wanted whatever I can get.
Hmm.
Um, and I remember that I got heroin again
Hmm.
after the first time I mean, it wasn't the first time since rehab, but I got heroin after not having it for a while. And I did it in high school.
Wow.
I think I must have been 18 or 19, and I remember the teacher noticed that I like was looking crazy. So they sent me to get a drug test and then I had to go
Hmm.
to rehab again for the second time.
Oh,
This was like a year later.
okay.
And and at that point is like the first time my parents were so supportive. I mean, they were supportive the whole time, but like the second time they were pissed.
Yeah.
Like, you know what
Well,
I mean?
it's
Like
not cheap, I'm sure,
it's
too.
not, well, actually it's funny you say that
Yeah.
because my dad, when I got out of rehab, he's like, yeah, you're paying for this. I'm not
Yeah.
paying for this
Well,
again. And he gave me the bill and I
he
had to work it
should
off. Yeah.
because
Yeah. I'm glad he did that.
yeah,
I respect him
can't
for
make
that.
it
And
too
I
easy.
appreciate that he did that
Yeah.
because it sucked. And I agree. Especially as a sober adult, like, hell
Yeah.
no, he shouldn't have to pay for that.
Yeah.
You know, um,
So you go a second time, same mindset.
I go a second time, same mindset. You know what's funny? I remember being 18 And because I was 18, okay, so the first time I was put in the adolescent unit because I was under 18.
Mm,
So that's why it was a little bit more fun.
mm.
And then the second time I was 18, no, but they put me in the adolescent unit
Oh,
again because I was so young.
mm.
They gave me the option and it was so fun, which is not consistent with my third time in rehab, but we'll get there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What was the difference between the 2 kinds of rehabs? Like, really, if you had to say?
I think that the program was pretty much the same. It's just when you're surrounded by a bunch of other 17-year-olds that just want to get high and don't want to be there and are there because their parents made them. It's just such a different vibe compared to all these people, a whole range of ages that this one lost his daughter, this one lost
You're not
his
seeing.
license, this one
Yeah.
was in jail for 2 years. It's like a little scarier.
So in hindsight, maybe it would be better if you would've
Yeah,
went
yeah,
okay.
honestly. Well,
'Cause you
at the
would've
end of
saw
the day,
more.
I wasn't ready for it.
Yeah.
Then it really started to escalate when I was 19, 20. I started to get closer again with the first person that introduced me to heroin disguised as Diesel, whatever the hell that is. And I started hanging out with that group.
Mhm.
That was not good.
Yeah.
That group, they were well, first of all, they did it all. They smoked crack.
Wow.
They did
Did you
all
try crack?
I did.
Wow.
They did everything. And the thing is, I remember, and I'm like so disgusted by this. And I haven't even thought about this in like 10 years. And I thought of it. I'm like, that's crazy. When I was 19, I remember at least 2 or 3 times at their place where I did ecstasy, heroin, and crack
Mm.
in the same night. And I remember I felt great.
Yeah.
I remember I remember going to have a cigarette, throwing up everywhere. And I remember, and this is so disgusting and such an unhealthy thought, but I remember thinking, even throwing up right now,
Yeah.
I feel so good that I would rather throw up on all three of these drugs than be sober.
Wow.
I remember thinking that. And just looking back, I'm like, man, that's so misguided and so unhealthy.
And so it's safe to say you're not friends with anyone from that group anymore.
I'm not.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, most of them are dead, to be honest. I'm not even trying to be funny. Like
Yeah.
like everyone I know from that time period is dead except for that one, the first person that introduced me.
Mm.
And he actually just reached out to me out of nowhere. It was actually kind of crazy.
Yeah.
He just called me a few months ago, and I was like, "Oh my God, how are you?" And I said, "Hey, like I don't know about you, but I stopped doing drugs. Like I'm completely sober."
Yeah.
And he was like, "Yeah, I stopped doing drugs too." And then was telling me a whole story that made no fucking sense. And I'm trying to understand. He was like, it was just kind of some scary stuff. He like just all over the place. And I said, "What happened?" And he was fighting with his girlfriend. And then he's like, "Well, she's on acid." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And then he's like, "Yeah, we both been on acid for 3 days." I was like, "I gotta go.
Yeah.
I can't have this in my life." And I feel bad because the thing is, I really love and care about that person. We really connected on an intellectual level. So I'm sad. I was sad by that because I really do care about him a lot.
It's interesting. Acid brought him back to wanting to call you. Like,
Who knows? Yeah, I, right. That's so random.
yeah.
So random.
In this world today, we don't really call people from our past anymore
Right.
unless we need money or something. So what made you then hit rock bottom and want to change within yourself?
Well, um, in the last year or two of that, actually the whole time from 17 to 20, one of my closest friends, he and I both tried heroin at the same time. We established, but we didn't do it together. We didn't do it together. And he also, same thing, was sent to rehab. Was it with this shady, dark group of friends that apparently didn't like me for who knows? I don't know. It was some weird drug drama.
Rival drug.
Yeah, right, exactly. So it was sad because this was my best friend. And to be honest, I kind of had a crush on him. I did. I had a little crush on him. And we talked about heroin and realized that we liked it. And his family put him in rehab a bunch of times, but um, he was just trying to be under the radar, just like me.
Mhm.
We started hanging out again, but every time we try to hang out, one of us was under our parents'
Mhm.
careful eye. So we didn't use together, but we talked about it. We talked about how much we liked it, and this was this ongoing thing. Well, one day, we got this idea to finally use together. That was the plan.
Both had an opportunity.
Yeah, we had both been sober for quite a while actually at that point, for months, because our family was on top of us. And we got this idea. We were going to do it. He was going to come to my place. We planned it. He went and got it, and I picked him up. We had it. We went to my mom's house. We did it. We sniffed it. We didn't shoot it. And I felt so comfortable with him.
Mhm.
And because I was high, especially, and it allowed me to let my guard down, and I came out to him. And this is the first person I ever came out to, you know. And on top of that, I had a big crush on him. And his reaction to me coming out was so just like happy and supportive,
Mhm.
and just like, oh, that's
Not,
awesome.
like,
And
freaked out or
yeah, not freaked out at all. And I
Mhm.
felt so close to him, and just so happy that I came out,
Mhm.
finally, to someone, and to somebody, like, just to my crush, you know what I mean? Of all
Mhm.
people, my best friend, like, we had a great night just talking, and I felt comfortable. I came out, and then it was time to go to bed. And then I went, he went to sleep on the couch. I went to sleep in my bedroom. I had school the next day, college. And I remember thinking, like, feeling so good in the bed, thinking like I finally did it, Like I came out to somebody. I told him, and he was super accepting, and I remember thinking like life is going to get better now, and like that I don't have to feel so alone anymore. And I woke up the next morning, and I said goodbye to my mom because she was just leaving, and he was on the couch, and she left, walked out the front door, and I went to go wake him up for school, and I his body was cold, and I rolled him over. He had passed away overnight. And like, I'll just never forget, like, the look on his face. He had went through like rigor mortis, so that's why his body was like hard to turn over, and just so I heard the air leaving his mouth like when I flipped him over, and it's really hard. It was traumatizing,
Yeah.
it's
D What did you do?
well, I knew my mom had just walked out the front door, and I knew that if I waited any longer and she was gone, then I would have to whatever I was going to do, I was going to have to do it by myself. So I ran out to get her, and it's like
Mm.
I, like there's an expression like pulling, like you go crazy, you pull your hair. Like I was physically pulling my hair out, saying, "Mom, like
Mm.
he's dead. My friend is dead." And she was like, "What? What? What?" She couldn't even process.
Yeah.
How could you? And then she came in, and I told her what happened, and that we used, and she called the police. And I think that I even had some left of the heroin. Now the police are on their way. And I remember just like grabbing it and just, I don't even know what I did with it. Ran into the woods. I think I ran into the woods and just
Yeah.
threw it as far as I could. And it's like, and then the cops came to get the body, and were obviously asking me all types of questions about what happened, and I just,
Were you honest?
I was not. I was so scared. I just said, I don't know. I don't know what happened. I obviously I'm not going to admit that I was
Yeah.
on heroin, to the police. They asked me a bunch of questions, and I was just really terrified. And it like I didn't even have time to think or process what just happened. So when they finally left, I remember we were in the driveway, and my mom just hugged me, and like we both just started crying. So like it just hit me all at once, like what just
Yeah.
happened, you know. And that was the first time where I started to reconsider everything.
Yeah, I mean, you probably never expected that, especially you didn't even shoot it. You would think like,
Mhm.
how did this have such a
We didn't do that much either.
yeah. So
So
what do you attribute that to?
I really don't know. I really don't know. Um,
You think it's because he hadn't done it in so long and or you think it was
I
cut with
I
something?
wonder I wondered that, like, maybe it's because we haven't done it, or
Mm,
I remember thinking that night, "Holy shit, like, my life is just fucked. It's just over."
mhm.
Like, what
The opposite of the night before.
Right, right. That's,
Yeah. What were, like, the weeks after that? Do you remember? Like, did you go right
yeah.
to rehab? Did you
Right. So I remember feeling that night that no matter what, uh, it was gonna take years for me to try to even begin to recover from this.
Mhm.
And, I went to rehab for the 3rd time. I was in the dual diagnosis unit,
What does that mean?
which means that I was being treated for both addiction and, like, depression, anxiety, or whatever, because of what, like, trauma, basically.
Mhm.
So it was a little different, and then like I said, it was like adults now,
Mhm.
and it was the first time that I wanted to be there. I felt so guilty and so terrible. Even now on my day to day, like I just am so devastated to think that he was not able to continue.
Mhm.
I just it's
You
just
still
so
you still carry it with you.
yeah. I do carry it with me. When I went to rehab, that was the first time where I was thinking like, I kind of want to be here. I need to
Yeah.
be here. Maybe I should be
It's
considering
different.
this. And I remember one of the counselors had said to me, like, for some reason, it's like, why don't you make a list of the things you've lost because of your addiction in the
Mhm.
last year, And I just went in my room by myself and just started writing these things down. Obviously, my friend was the first thing on the list. And I think that there was a moment, that was like a moment where I just remember reflecting on it, and it was like, this is really bad. This is really bad. Mind you, that sometime in between all this, I also got a DUI. I was okay. So I was arrested 3 times. One was for DUI and 2 times was for pot.
Mhm.
And so I was court ordered to go to meetings. So in addition to whatever outpatient meetings I had to do the first 2 times I was in rehab,
Mhm.
I had sat through, hundreds of meetings I mean, not hundreds, but dozens of meetings by the time I was in rehab, hundreds of hours worth of
Yeah.
treatment by the time I was in that rehab the 3rd time. S-
Were you hearing stories similar to what you experienced? Like
in the rehab,
no, both meetings, rehab.
yeah, sometimes I felt like the problem I was experiencing was that my addiction was heroin, and a lot of these meetings are AA. Like the
Mhm.
convenience, I would, if I was court ordered to go to a meeting, I was going to go to the
Yeah.
fastest one to my house, and they were often AA, and it was not relatable. So
Yeah.
that was the problem for
Mm.
me. But a lot of the addiction stuff still is the same.
So when the police were there, you didn't you didn't come clean, but in
Mhm.
rehab, were you able to tell your story? Were you able to feel comfortable enough to say what happened?
Yeah, I shared
Yeah.
about that. Yeah, I mean, it was all kind of a blur to me, to be honest. Now looking back, but
Yeah.
yeah, I remember sharing the truth about what happened when I was in rehab.
So what does your life look like after you get out of rehab before we meet?
Mhm. Another layer to this is that this all happened 2 weeks before Christmas. So I got out of rehab like right in time for Christmas.
Mm.
And I remember uh, coming home and going to my dad's house. But, my family's Italian. We do like the 7 fishes, and like Christmas is like a big deal. And I, uh, I get to my dad's and he opens the door and he had the biggest smile on his face, and he hugs me and kisses me on the cheek, which he's never done. Never. In fact, that was probably the only time he's done it for me as an adult. And and it just made me that's a hard memory for me
Mhm.
because he was so happy that I was there. And no, and it was like I thought he was gonna be mad at me.
Yeah. Yeah, you probably were really fearful going there.
But the thing is, it was worse because it was like I thought he was gonna be mad at me, and he was so happy to be there for me to be there because I could have died. That was it was like everything I just said. That's what we were both thinking
Yeah.
when we hugged each other. You know, it's like Christmas has always been really important to my family and to me. So when I came home that day on Christmas, it was I was just so grateful to be there. And I think it's like how it switched. Like I started as an adult, I look back and I feel bad for what I put my family through. That's when it switched. Like so that's when I you know it's just really important for me to go home for Christmas every year and
Mhm.
be with my family. And I started to realize how appreciative I am of my family and certain things.
Yeah, you're lucky you have that
That
family
support.
dynamic.
Yeah.
You have a huge family.
Yeah. So when the next year, I remember um being just like a zombie. Like I didn't go out. I didn't talk to my friends or anything like that. Like I was just home and just try to focus on school and focus on the gym. And it was really rough. The thing is also around Christmas time, we got a letter in the mail that was from my friend's mother, and my mom
Mm.
opens it
This was the first
that
Christmas, like a
first
month
Christmas, like,
later.
yeah, a few
Okay.
weeks later.
Okay.
She gets a letter in the mail. My mom opens it, and the letter basically says like, "You are a horrible human being for allowing this to happen at your house. Your son should have died instead
Mm.
of mine, and your son should be in jail. You should all be in jail. You guys are gonna burn in hell." Like all that,
Yeah.
And to be honest, I don't blame her.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I get it. You know, and my mom didn't say anything. Because then the next year around Christmas time, we got another letter,
Mm.
and then another. Like every Christmas, every Christmas, my mom got that letter for 10 years, and the only reason it stopped because she got a restraining order. She
Wow.
finally said enough is enough. But the
Yeah.
thing is, the reason why my mom let it go on so long is she said, "I will allow her to put the guilt on me because if you had passed away,
Mm. Mhm. Yeah, she
I
understood
would
as a
have
mother.
lost it." Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, so I feel for his mom, and she I'm sure hates my guts. I'm sure if she saw it, she'd
Do you
be
hear that voice in your head sometimes when you feel guilt?
what?
Like her voice, like her.
I don't remember her
No.
voice, but I met her a few times before, like all this obviously before all this happened, but I never saw her again. Um, there was two times that she called me on my cell phone. I don't know how she got my cell phone number, and it was like a dream sequence in a movie of like it was like what my biggest darkest nightmare fear would be,
Mhm.
because I remember when I realized what was happening, like who it was, like I froze. I couldn't even hang up. I was so scared, and I said like I need to go, and she said my son is dead, and you won't even stay on the fucking phone with me, and I froze. I
Mm.
I I froze, and then
Yeah.
eventually I real like I didn't know. I needed to just not, and I hung up, and that happened a few times.
Oof. That's probably when your mom got the restraining order, when she started calling you all
No,
the
that
time.
my mom got the restraining order like 10 years later.
Oh, okay. That
This
was
was
when
this
you.
was like right after,
Got it.
yeah. So, you know, yeah, she probably hates my guts, and the bottom line is I don't blame her. I understand, and I'm sorry for that family. I don't really there's not much else I could say.
Mhm.
It's like they know their son, but I also had a relationship with him.
Mhm.
And I know that if he were to be seeing this or
Mhm.
see where I'm at, he would be happy. Just
Mhm.
like if tables were turned. I mean, obviously we don't know, but I like
Well, you were also struggling as well. It's not like
right, yeah. I was struggling,
you were young and.
and and I was young, and it very well could have happened the other way around, and I could have been dead. And it,
Do you think this was, like, in the beginning when I don't know, was fentanyl around then, or you think there was anything in it that.
I really don't know. I think fentanyl has always been around
Mhm.
and they've always been cutting stuff, but now it's like a crisis. So
Yeah.
like, was there fentanyl in it? Maybe. I just don't know. I mean, this was in 2008. So that's
Yeah.
crazy.
Addictions come in different forms. So if I had to say when I met you, I would never bucket you as an addict in any sort of way. But now when I think to everything I know about you, you are an addict for
Mhm.
fitness,
Oh my God, everything.
for food.
Right. Literally.
You have a lot of passion and I've definitely witnessed you have taken your addiction and put it into different channels.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
maybe to an unhealthy extent sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe, but I think they're definitely more positive
Mhm.
addictions.
Well, you met me when I was so driven. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like, not,
Yeah.
I am again now. But the thing is, that was the turning point for me. Is that because I had nothing else in my life to, I didn't know what else to do. I
Mhm.
felt didn't have friends. Like I just didn't know what to do
Yeah.
with myself. And so I started to just think, I felt like my life was so fucked that I had to be so perfect and be a good boy at everything. Like I felt like
That's
even
how
if
you came off.
I
It
felt
is.
right. I felt like even if I stop doing drugs and do good at school and go to the gym and do everything I'm supposed to do, life is going to be really hard
Yeah.
for the next few years. So I better do that. I have to do that. That was my mentality, as I needed to be perfect at everything or I'm gonna die. Like that was kind of my thought process.
That's why you
And
got employee of the month your first
that's
month.
why I got employee of the month my first month right after the I started. So the first was school. All of this was taking away from the fact that I wanted to be a high school teacher.
Mhm.
Like what crazy mentality that like I'm like on heroin and crack, like, oh, I'll finish school. Like
Yeah.
and well, I was like, let me focus on this. By the way, the education system doesn't allow you to have all these arrests on your record. I was able to get one expunged.
Oh, yeah.
One I was
I
so
didn't even think of
scared.
that.
Yeah, one I was so scared shitless. And I was 17 and I was like, they're like, whose weed is this? I was like, it's mine. I'm sorry. Like I was so terrified that they arrested me, but they never filed it.
Oh,
Like they, yeah,
really?
they had me. Like I didn't know that at the time. I was so scared. They had my parents come pick me up. They were pissed, and I was so scared. And then they said I'd get a court date, and then nothing came in the mail. And then like 3 months later, I didn't want to get in trouble if I missed it. So I called and they're like,
Fast forward, you have a warrant out for your arrest
yeah,
now.
right, exactly. Right. Cops come in right during this. Um, yeah, but that I called the court and they're like, there's nothing here. So either you got really lucky or maybe they just gave you a break. And looking back, it's like I was terrified, honest 17-year-old. I was like, I'm sorry, that's my weed.
I know.
Like, so
But there's a whole,
did you have anything else on you? There's a pipe in the back. You know? So
but you can go back and forth with that because I get the whole giving you a break, but sometimes you need to get something.
right,
You
yeah,
need
but
to
they
get,
don't know.
yeah,
They didn't know I was also doing all these other drugs, like
yeah.
but so I started getting back on track with school.
Hmm.
And I like school. I love math and I love what I was studying, and like I was just like I have nothing else going on in my life. So I just went hard at school and I got straight A's, and I even got it was like a 3.98 or something when I graduated. And my family was so proud of me because I finally got it together
Yeah,
and like was doing it and not on drugs and
yeah.
clearly didn't want to be on drugs. I started to go to the gym, which
Mhm,
I was never really cared about
mhm,
previously. And then I wanted to do stand-up comedy.
mhm.
I always wanted to do that since I was 15. So I started writing material. I started going to comedy clubs. And somewhere along the lines in my 20s is where I realized this very important, like honestly, this is, if I had one message to get out there or to give about addiction, this would be it, is that I learned that because I'm an addict, I was really good at stuff.
Mhm,
Like I was so good at fixating and focusing on things.
mhm.
And if there's one message I could give, it's that an addict is the most powerful person on the planet. Being an addict is the most powerful thing you could be, because it's somebody that will stop at absolutely nothing to get what if an addict wants it, they will get it.
Yeah.
They will put everything, they will put it in front of everything, they will get it. And it just happens to be that if that's crack or heroin, that's not a really good path to be on. But when you learn to refocus that towards positive things in your life, like school or your career or your relationships or hobbies, fitness, any of it, it's like you could conquer the world. And I just remember feeling so powerful in my 20s because all this happened when I was 20. So I was sober and I just felt like, wait, I'm all of a sudden really good at everything. Like, you know what I mean? Like I just was so focused. And it's funny because I eventually shared with you what happened, but not everybody knew that.
Yeah.
Not everybody knew what happened. But even when they didn't know what happened, people did say that about me. I remember people being like, you were like so focused and laser focused and driven, you know,
Yeah.
and the people were impressed by that. And I was proud of that.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
and
you were just impressive. It didn't matter that if you were an addict or not at some point.
yeah, it's like this stuff in the background though. It's that's something that's one of the many things that stuck. I didn't do the 12 steps, but I've sat through hundreds of hours of the meetings and a lot of it stuck with me. They have lots of phrases and sayings and things that are helpful.
And you like to help other people. I noticed over the years, you would, like, I knew you were sober. I knew you weren't even doing anything. You weren't even drinking.
What a loser.
No, but I remember you would like take to people that were struggling. Because in the restaurant industry, you meet a lot of addicts.
Yeah, we were just talking about that.
And you would kind of like make them sometimes like your little puppy, like, you know what I mean? And try to get them through it. But I think it probably helped yourself.
I don't remember that, but I believe you.
Are you kidding?
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right.
Okay. I'm right.
Well, that's it for this episode of Stop the Ride. I want to thank my friend Tricia for always being my #1 supporter and for being on my podcast. Join me for part 2 of this conversation, available now, where Tricia and I discuss why I eventually decided to end my sobriety, how I got caught up in the gay party scene, and why I got sober again for hopefully the last time. You can see all of our episodes plus additional content at stoptheridepodcast.com. Make sure to follow or subscribe on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and Facebook. And if you enjoyed the show, please do me a big favor and share with a friend or leave a review wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time on Stop the Ride.
This podcast is brought to you by Liberty Lane Films, truly independent.